As I'm sure many of you know, perhaps to your boredom, in more recent years I've been very keen to restore some balance in our industry, and that's the hospitality industry, not the F&B industry or the drinks industry, because we work within the hospitality industry, between the products we serve and the people we serve them to. But I often run into the challenge that some things can be taught, but others can only be learned through experience. But our next session came from a book that tries to square that circle. Within the book, one concept stood out for me, so when the author submitted it for the main stage, we could not say no. The Inception Archetype is a concept developed from the book Hospitality DNA, written by Dave Nitzel and his writing partner Dave Domzalski, which is a research project of interviews and business lessons from global award winners in the independent bar and restaurant industry. The aim of the project was to bring definition to the term hospitality DNA by delving into the careers and core beliefs of the interviewees. Along the way, a breakthrough was made that they call the Inception Archetype, which is inspired by their interview with Dave Kaplan of Death & Co. about how he envisions the guest experience. From his initial thoughts, they added best practices around archetype building and team training to deliver a robust and manageable approach to delivering a world-class guest experience, whilst at the same time aligning your team's motivations and marketing approach. Now, Dave Nitzel has had over 30 years of management and senior leadership experience, beginning with major US corporations, before eventually launching his own Atlanta-based hospitality management consulting firm. Post-corporate career, Dave has become a best-selling author with 2 published books, The Bar Shift and Hospitality DNA, which he's co-authored with friend and fellow business consultant Dave Domzalski. Dave also owns and operates 4 Barmetrics franchise offices throughout the southeastern US, where they specialize in inventory management services for bars and restaurants. I will now shut up and leave the stage to allow Dave to take over.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, bar conventioners, and welcome to the Inception Archetype. I'm very, very excited to be here. It's been a long journey. I think it's a bit unique, at least for me, to travel to Europe to do a talk on bars and restaurants. I think we all appreciate that there's subtle differences between the U.S. and what happens in Europe and around the world, which was part of the inspiration for the book Hospitality DNA. Part of what I wanted to do in this book, and it was very important to me, I think it's at the core of hospitality, that we embrace one another and all the nuance involved. At its core, that's what hospitality is very much about. And today we're going to delve into a little bit more, how do we market, brand, and bring our employees along in such a way that we maximize on those types of experiences. Angus did a very good job of setting me up, maybe too good to be true. So I usually do this in about an hour and a half to 2-hour workshop, so there's a lot here. So I'm going to give you all the bacon and none of the fat today, so I am going to move along. It will probably seem very quick at times with the amount of information I give you. I will apologize in advance for that, although I know it's not good form. We are going to move quickly. So today I'm going to introduce to you what exactly does this Inception Archetype thing even mean. It's a mouthful. I will show you how to do these exercises so you can do them without me. The beautiful thing about this is everything I show you today you can do on your own, and a lot of what I show you today probably won't be new to you. We're just going to reposition things that you already know that allow you to be more productive in developing your brand, your guests, and your employees in your business. How many business owners do I have out there? Bar owners real quick? Okay, I'm just getting to read the room. Bartenders? Cool. Totally works for personal brand as well. So these are all things that you consider whether you're building your personal brand or whether you're building a brand for your business. So we'll talk about the archetype marketing and then aligning your team. So what does this thing mean anyway? So Inception is simply when the guest experience begins. It was a bit of a revelation for us compared to what I would challenge the room to say. What do you believe, or when do you believe the guest experience begins today? What might you say? Typically what I'll hear is, it begins at the front door. It begins at the host stand. It begins at the parking lot. There's a lot of different answers to that question. We're going to challenge all those answers today when we talk about when the guest experience actually begins and what that cycle actually looks like for the guest. The second bit is archetype building. How many of you are familiar with archetype building or psychographics? Yeah, cool. This is something that we do in big business. So part of, hopefully, my charm is I've never been a cool bartender, never been a cool bar owner. I'm not a creative type. I kind of wish I was, but I'm not. My gift is learning about what other people do and then finding ways to make it better. And that's my gift. So as we go along, part of what I will do is I'll introduce some big business concepts to you in very specific ways to take you out of the industry. Sometimes we get a little too close to the industry and we have so many opinions. I rather enjoy taking you out of the industry for a minute, show you examples of other companies and what they do well, get you thinking, yeah, I get that. I've experienced that in marketing and branding outside the industry, and then hopefully the message lands. So what's in a brand? The question I would start off with challenging you is, what does your brand inspire? Does your bar or restaurant or your personal brand have definition? Are you something specific in your market? Do you know who you speak to and what your exact offering is and who you speak to? See, the trick in this Inception archetype idea is that the better you speak to your ideal guest, and when you know who they are, the better you can market to them, the more likely they are to show up. The more likely they are to show up, the more likely they are to tell a friend who's like-minded, and we start to create this perpetual cycle of getting the right customers in our venue with the right motivations that match up with the things that we want to accomplish in the venue from a guest experience perspective. We line that up with our employees, and really cool things happen. The first breakthrough I'd like to have with you is that in hospitality, what I've learned is we want to take care of everybody. But not every guest is an ideal guest, but we treat every guest ideally. Not every guest is an ideal guest, but we treat every guest ideally. What that means is we need to be able to target and focus our marketing efforts towards the people that we want to come in because they give us the greatest chance of success. So for example, if I have a high-end steakhouse and I'm attracting people that don't understand my concept, what I'm trying to accomplish, why I'm pricing things the way I'm pricing them, they're much more likely to be disappointed in my product than when I'm getting the right people into my concept. So I'm going to start here. My co-author, Dave Domzalski, did a scrape of the internet before I came here. He said, Dave, you got to show folks exactly what we're talking about when it comes to online promotion. So we went on to Instagram and Facebook and other places, and this is how a lot of folks promote their products. What is this? Who is this? Could you tell me who any of these bars are? What do they stand for? Pretty cocktails for sure. Good-looking pictures. Doesn't really tell me anything about you. So ironically, in our industry, where we're very focused, when inside the four walls, we're completely focused on the guests, right? We very much care about their opinions and how they feel. If I were to survey this room, based on the interviews we did and everything we learned in the book writing, people tell us that they're in the experience business. What experience is this? This is very inward looking from an external perspective. So when people aren't inside the four walls, we tend to look at what we do and promote our creativity outward. Did I say that right? When we're inside the four walls, we tend to connect with our guests. Outside, when we're promoting externally, I should say, we promote this sort of stuff because we're not really dialed into building our brand and marketing the way that big companies do. So we say, hey, what can I show people? And this is what we show them, really attractive cocktails. But it doesn't connect with me as a human. So this is where I like to take you outside the industry for a minute. Knowing I was coming to Germany, I selected Porsche as my example of external marketing. So there's a product here, just like the products we saw on the previous screen, right? But when this ad comes up, what did you see first? We all might have seen something different. I'll tell you what I saw first. I saw the pretty lady looking at the guy adoringly. Why does that speak to me? Because I've been married 32 years. My wife hasn't looked at me like that in 29 years. So if you're telling me if I buy this product that my wife's going to look at me like that, I'm interested. I don't really care what the product is. You're speaking to me. So when it comes to Porsche, I'm their demo. I'm what Porsche's looking to market to. Now, what I want you to gravitate to is if a 17-year-old girl walked into a Porsche dealership and wanted to buy a Porsche, are they going to sell her a 911? Yeah, you betcha they're going to sell her a 911. She's getting the same good car, all the good stuff. Just like with you as a bar owner, you're not going to discriminate how you take care of people. But I want you to start thinking about who your ideal customer is. In this case with Porsche, they hit you, they give you the trifecta. You're going to be a star at work, your wife's going to love you, and you can go be a weekend warrior. So for me, I'm just thinking, I don't care what this is. I want this. Because Porsche is speaking to me, and they're not really telling me much about their product. Is that landing a little bit with the group? All right? This is where we're headed, folks. Hang on. This is the next one I love, the story of Harley-Davidson. Everyone know Harley-Davidson? Great brand, right? Harley-Davidson's a great brand that went bankrupt in the 1980s. Did you guys know they went bankrupt in the 1980s? No, you don't. So what happened with Harley was they didn't want to compromise on their product, but their core audience, their demographic, their archetype audience couldn't afford the product, and they didn't want to make it cheaper. So they said, what do we do? They didn't know what to do. They bankrupted the business. New investors came in, and they said, we need to target a new demographic. So I don't know what it's like here in Europe, but I know in the States, the people that are driving around on Harleys today, after they re-archetyped their business and re-looked at their demographics, are doctors, lawyers, business professionals. They're six-figure and up people who put on a helmet, leather gear, and go act like weekend warriors and live kind of a fantasy life on the weekends, and they can afford the product. Meanwhile, they still found a way to attract the same core audience that they had before in the demo. They haven't lost the original folks, but they brought on a whole new group of people. So when you look at this ad that they create, when it first came up, what did you see? I would assume the first thing you saw was the girl balancing on the motorcycle. Did anyone quite go straight to the motorcycle and say, what is she riding? No. Why? Because we don't care. Harley's selling us an experience. Sound familiar? Who else in here is in the experience business? Anyone? Let's try it again. Who in here is in the experience business? All right, look, I'm relentless. Let's go. Right, we're all in the experience business, but we go back to that slide I showed you, and what are you guys showing me pictures of? And I've used that loosely. I know it's not all of you, but we're seeing tons and tons of pictures of cocktails. You know who's in the spirits business, best I can tell? Folks out there. That's what the spirit business looks like. They're selling spirits. You're that demo. Your demo is someone like me who's going to bars and restaurants all the time looking for a very specific experience. So there was an award-winning ad run in 1999. Angus, you might be familiar with it. It won awards, I think, 2002. It may sound familiar to you guys. Couple surfers in the ocean. Sound familiar? Waiting on a big wave. Anyone know it? Raise their hand. Surfers waiting on the big wave, waiting. The music's kind of pulsating. And all of a sudden the wave hits. The surfers run out, hit the wave. Horses come piling over the top. It's a bizarre black and white ad. What is an ad about surfers waiting for this big wave with horses all about? Anybody know? Shout it out. Guinness. I knew you'd know. It's a Guinness ad. It's a Guinness ad. What's the point of that Guinness ad? The point is good things come to those who wait, and it takes 119 seconds to pour a proper Guinness. Hence, you want a Guinness. That's good shit. So I want you to continue thinking about your version of good shit as it relates to branding. Now, I've got to pivot here a little bit because time is tight. This is the entrance to Death & Company. Anybody recognize it? New York City, one best cocktail bar in North America. Dave's written Cocktail Codex and the Death & Co. cocktail books. You guys probably know that stuff even better than I do. When we were interviewing Dave, he was telling us about how critically important it was to him that everyone got a very rich and warm experience every single time that they came into the venue. He wanted to deliver on a holy shit moment. And I thought, my God, Who would ever dream of trying to do something that challenging? But he doesn't back away from it, which is stunning to me. Every customer, every time, he wants to deliver on a holy shit moment. What makes Dave unique? Well, part of what makes Dave unique is how he and his entire team think about the guest experience differently than I'd ever heard before. So when we were writing this book deal, I wanted to write more about this, but we only had a 60,000 word contract, and we were on word 75,000. And they're like, hey, you got to produce a book. And we were like, we're not done writing. They said, we don't care. Good enough? So we took this thing into workshopping, and this is what we learned from Dave, and I'm really excited to share this with you. So we're transitioning right now from building your brand into your guest experience, and how I want you to rethink that a little bit. So earlier when I asked you, when does the guest experience truly begin? And many of you, I would think, thought something along the lines of the parking lot, the front door, the host stand. Dave says no. We need to rethink how the guest experience begins. Dave says the experience begins when the initial idea of the visit is formed, right here. So now I want you to consider this. In your branding and marketing, you can put a pretty cocktail picture out there on Instagram, and that's cool. I'm not telling you not to do that. I would never do that. But what about in addition to that? You think about that Guinness ad, you think about Harley Davidson, you think about Porsche, because we can learn from these folks. They know what they're doing when it comes to archetyping and psychographics. You put an ad out that shows somebody, think about whoever your guest is. In my mind, we have some person behind a laptop on Monday morning, sitting behind a laptop at work, and there's an ad across the top that says, are you already looking forward to Friday? So are we. You're connecting with me in that moment as a person. I'm sitting there going, yeah, I'm sitting in front of this laptop. Mondays suck, and I am thinking about Friday already. It gives me something to look forward to. So then in Dave's world, throughout the week, anticipation builds. If you're like my wife and her and I are going out on Friday, the last thing she really wants to do is spend an evening alone with me. So she's going to call friends and family and anyone else to gin up the evening to make it more interesting. Plans are created. Arrival becomes imminent. On the day when arrival becomes imminent, we call an Uber. We've saved up some money. We go get our hair done. Whatever we're doing, we've put a lot of work in over here getting ready for our big night out. Then when we arrive, the experience forms. Now, if Dave's gotten this right, and if we're right about branding and archetyping, we're getting the right people into our place at that time. So satisfaction then begins to build. Your reputation is established. We start getting the selfies, the photos, all the things are happening on social media to drive interest in the venue. And then advocacy is created, and that is the nirvana for you as a bar, restaurant owner, or individual brand builder, that you get people that are following and liking you. There's some people here at this conference that do this exceptionally well. They totally understand this, and it's impressive. What stood out to me when we were learning about this was the amount of investment that happens on the left side of this circle. If you look at the amount of investment from a guest perspective, so let's look at our business not through the lens of what we want, but from what the guest wants, there's a ton of investment here, folks. Right? I'm starting to think about going to your venue on Monday, not Friday. I might be saving up. I might be inviting friends. I might be setting up an Uber. I may have bought clothes, all these different things to come have an experience at your venue. I fundamentally don't think that we think this way today. If you want to think like a world-class award winner, that's where we're going. And then market to that in such a way that connects with people. So when you post with things, let's say you want to post your awesome cocktail out there, which I'm a big fan of. Show me outcomes. Outcomes, outcomes, outcomes. Think about, what do you have over here? Tylenol, headache medicine. Think about your headache medicine, pain meds. Over-the-counter pain meds, what do they show you? They don't show you a bottle of pain meds. They show you grandpa getting out of a chair and playing with the grandkids. Outcomes. So what's the outcome that you want for your venue and for your personal brand? Show me that. So if your cocktails are awesome, show me a group of people truly enjoying your cocktails. Show me them leaving thrilled in the time that they spent with you at your venue. Connect with them on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, building up to Friday. So when Friday comes, the choice is already made. And the people that are showing pictures on Friday to attract people on Friday have long ago made their decision on where they're going to go. And you're way ahead of the game. Those are your people. That's how you create that perpetual revenue and get the right people into your venues. So key inception points, I'll read this quickly. The Inception Archetype is a human construct exercise to draw you as close as possible to understanding how your ideal guest anticipates a visit. It's a walk a mile, kilometer in their shoes exercise where ideally we apply our learnings to our marketing and staff training. So this is what archetype building looks like. This is something I feel like we might be loath to do. Is really good medicine for us. So you might say, hopefully right now you might be saying, well, Dave, how do I identify my ideal guest? I don't know how to do that. Hard to do. This is how you do it. Everything I have I'll make available to you for free too, so you don't have to take any pictures. You can email me afterwards, and I have editable PDFs of all this stuff. So here's how we do it when we're doing our workshops. And I love this because we'll bring groups of teams together and say, hey, tell me who your ideal guest is and see how many people agree. Most do not. It's okay to have multiple archetypes in your business too. You might have a lunch crowd archetype. You might have a dinner crowd archetype. You might have an evening crowd archetype. Usually no more than 5, but you certainly have one. Say you're a college bar. You might just have one archetype where you say, look, this is basically the customer we serve. So I'm pretending this is Dave's Neighborhood Tavern. At Dave's Neighborhood Tavern, Holly is my ideal guest. And Holly says, and this is what we do, sorry about that. Holly, got the laser. So what Holly says is, I don't go out as much as I used to, so now when I'm able to get a night out with friends, it has to be a top-notch experience. That's basically the core premise of why she goes out. I guarantee each and every one of you knows who this is in your venue, or the 2 or 3 people that this represents in your venue. Then we have sub-factors underneath the core desire, social interaction. She wants to be social with friends. Our sub-factors are her desire and need to be social, make connections, and maintain friendships. So if I know that's one of her core desires and why people come visit me, I'm going to make sure, if I'm a bar owner, I'm going to make sure that my staff understands, hey, when Holly comes to the bar and people like Holly come to the bar, introduce Holly to the other Hollies at the bar. We want to make social connections. We're a neighborhood bar where people come to be friendly and to blow off some steam. We just want to understand those archetypes and make sure that the team is organized around that. Our place, Dave's Place, is also a brief escape from stress and daily requirements. So we're going to make sure we have a pretty stress-free environment. It's not going to be too hard to figure out the menu. Things are going to be easy and light. And we're also going to introduce some new experiences at Dave's Place, new quality food and drinks and that sort of thing. You can tell I'm not a bar or restaurant owner because this isn't very cool. You guys would come up with really cool stuff, but the idea is, what does Holly want? This is the archetype for our ideal guest. Over here on the profile side, and this is really fun. This is a great exercise for you guys to do when you're thinking to yourself, how do I speak to them like the surfers on the beach, like the horses and all that different stuff where it's asymmetrical? This is the psychographic side. So what does Holly like to do? Do I know what my guests do for fun outside my bar? And if you're doing a really great job as a bartender or a server, you probably know the answers to these questions because they talk to you about this stuff. So we can play to that in our marketing. So for example, if I have a lakeside, let's say I have a lakeside tavern, I may put something, going to the beach this weekend, going out on the lake this weekend, going to be on the boat, need some shade, need a break from the waves. We understand, we got you, come see us, ... whatever it might be. We speak to them where they are. The beauty of this is when you ask questions in your marketing and advertising, you're just really trying to get to a one-word answer. That's yes. Ask a question of your ideal guest that ends in the response of yes. Already looking forward to Friday? So are we, right? So in that case, they've said yes. Need a break from the waves? Yes. When they say that yes, you've made a connection with that person, whether they know it or not. I've stopped scrolling, read, looked, yes, those are my people. That must be my bar. This is a place I should go. Seems comfortable. Seems familiar. Then on the bottom, we have a list of things that are the frustrations. This person's most likely to complain about what? This person's motivators are what? So this, I won't drain the whole exercise, but you get the idea. I'll make this available to you if you want to do this exercise. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing for you to do, either for yourself or with your team, to see how much you agree on what this looks like. And like I said, a natural question that I get is, how many archetypes can I have in my business? 1 to 5 feels about right. You can imagine if you're making 10 of these, it gets a little crazy to run a business at a world-class level, right? That's what a lot of folks are doing. They've got 1 million archetypes. They're just splatter marketing out there, and they're putting cool pictures of cocktails and things out there, and anyone shows up, and you know what? Anything can happen. I want you to get out of the anyone can show up and anything can happen business. Let's get the right people in the door with the right motivations that match what we do really, really well. How this goes wrong. This goes desperately wrong for me on a regular basis. I'm a big sports fan. Now in the U.S. we have a game called football. Over here I know you guys have a game called soccer. We respect that. Yeah, I know, it's football. So American football kicks off at 1 o'clock on Sundays. Soccer kicks off, when do the soccer, 1 o'clock Sundays? Same time? Same time, okay. So you have the same, if there's any sports fans or sports bar owners in here, you have the same issue I have. My favorite team is not in the city I live, so I have to travel to go watch a game. We have NFL Ticket, we call it. It has all the games on, so I can reliably go watch a game at my local pub. They'll advertise to me, NFL Sunday Ticket, chicken wings, beer. They're saying, I understand you, you're a sports fan, come see me, and I say, yes. I show up to the bar, and I know better now because I've been going for 30 years and getting screwed on this all the time. I got to get there 15 minutes early. But let's say I showed up 5 minutes early. Where's my game? We're figuring it out. What's your team? My team are the Colts. There's no Colts fans out there. So my team's the Colts. We don't have that game on. Why isn't my game on? Let me see if I can get it. There's other people watching another TV. We got to change their TV. These people got to move. Shit show, right? Meanwhile, 10 minutes have gone by. It's 1:10. I miss kickoff, and the other team's up 10-0. I'm pissed. But you told me you understood me. You marketed to me. NFL Ticket, sports fan, Colts fan, come see us. We got you. No, you didn't got me. Right? You screwed me out of 10 minutes. I'm frustrated. This experience is no good. And the guy sitting next to me whose TV we changed their game are pissed off the entire time I'm sitting here. Not a good experience, but I am in the core demographic for that sports bar. So what just happened? I tell you that story because you got to be careful. When you market to your core audience, don't screw that experience up. Give it a lot of thought. Don't just start blasting stuff out there to your archetype saying, we understand you, we really get this, and when you show up, they get something completely different. A letdown is worse than no expectation at all. Just like a recovery sometimes is better than an average experience. Do you guys feel that? You're familiar with that, right? You fix something for somebody, they actually like you better in the end. It's good stuff. All right. So now we've talked about your brand. We've talked about connecting with your customer in a meaningful way. The next thing that has to happen is our staff has to be along for the ride. The team gets left out of this conversation all the time. So we've talked about, is our current guest aligned with the archetype? Are you connected to their core desires? Is the team aligned with these expectations? And most often the answer is a resounding no. Does the team know about the marketing that went out? Do they know, show the team, if you're a bar or restaurant owner, show the team the marketing. Here's what we're promoting out into the world. Here's what we're telling people. This is what you are a part of. Everyone's into the why now and to have purpose. Here's your purpose. If you want to give purpose to your team, this is purpose for days. So imagine a world where I'm a host or a hostess, and I have two options. Option one is you come to work, people come through that door, I greet them with a smile, I grab a menu. You want to sit at the bar, you want a table, you want a booth. I take them to the table, the booth, I hand the menu. Have a nice day, someone will be right with you. And I do that hundreds and hundreds of times over and over again, and that's my job. And you're asking me what my purpose is. Questionable. Not sure I love this. But on the other hand, if you include your team, we'll use this same host or hostess into the marketing conversation, into the branding conversation of who we are and what we're about. And I say to them, look, here's your job here. When people come through that door, they've been planning to come here for days, weeks, or months. Might be the only time they go out this week. Might be the only extra money they have to spend. They might be bringing in family and friends that they haven't seen in forever. That might be mourning a wedding or celebrating a divorce. But whatever the case may be, when that person walks through the door, what energy do you bring to that? How do you respond to that? And I show them marketing content. Now all of a sudden I do have a purpose. All of a sudden I feel like an important piece of the wheel here. I'm an important cog in what's going on. I really matter. I'm the beginning of a chain of events that I understand, and that gives me purpose. One of my favorite quotes, this is in the book, and you guys will kill me. Is there anyone who's French in the room? All right, you can say the name. So if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. Name? Yeah, okay, I can't say it like that. But basically, he said something that sounds like Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, right? How's that? How am I doing? All right. But the idea is teach the team the mission. The actions are not what matters. The mission is what matters most. And if everyone's on board with the mission, great things can happen. Great, great things. And I've heard a lot of talks in here this week as I've sat in on them. There's a lot of frustrated people in this industry that I don't think need to be frustrated. And there's a lot of this going on in the industry that I think is unnecessary too. We just need to bring staff, customers, and the brands together to do great things. So let me take you through a quick journey of what we've talked about so far, because we've covered a lot of ground, and I do apologize for that. I know I am covering a lot of ground awfully fast, and it's probably leaving more questions than you deserve. But here's what this looks like. We identify our ideal guest. Our guest is affected and decisive, which we love. Visit is imminent, anticipation builds. Staff is fully aware of the why behind what we do and how we do it. They're read in on all the marketing. They understand the targeted outcomes and their roles. We have metrics to tell me, how did I do today? And at the end of the day, we deliver what Dave Kaplan calls a holy shit moment. It's not that difficult of a journey. We just need to see it from a broader lens, see it all happening. This is something that everyone could implement tomorrow if they wanted to. It's not that this is difficult. It's just unusual. It's uncommon, and I don't think the industry thinks in these terms completely. Let me take a swig. So what's the big deal? Why does this matter? Look, when we did our research, and I work with hundreds and hundreds of bars and restaurants every day on the barmetrics side of my business. And basically, I find that bars fall into one of these 6 categories. The one and done, bars and restaurants. The one and done category, not going back. You've all been there, right? We've all had that experience. Then you have the not the worst place. I'll go there. But it has to be a matter of extreme convenience if I'm going to go to that place. Like I got to be starving and driving by, and then maybe, just maybe, I'll go. Then we have equal amongst many peers. It's okay. Take it or leave it. If it went out of business, no big loss. Will I go there for a burger and fries? Yeah, sure, on occasion. Then we move to the other side of the aisle. Good, not great. These are folks that are making money, they have their fans, they have good regular business, they're doing fine. Not great, which is the toughest move to make, is from good to great. Then we get into one of a few. These folks tend to start living fundamentally different lives. And we talked about the 20% in the last conversation that we had here. These folks get to live the life that I desire for everyone in this industry, because I think this industry deserves 20%. I think This industry is so special that it bothers me that we're not more successful, which is why we write the books. And then we get to Inception level, which are the folks that we wrote about in the last book. That was the inspiration. Now, here's where this gets interesting and dangerous. If I were to poll the room, we can do it if you like. How many people fancy that they're good, not great? Raise your hands if you don't mind, if you're brave enough. Good, not great? All right, we may need to backtrack a little. Be braver. Who's one and done? Do we have any one and doners in the room? Yeah, see, one and doners don't go to conference. Oh, we got one in the back. One and doners typically don't go to conferences. Not the worst? Do we have any not the worsts? Okay, I won't wear you out with this stuff. Here's the deal. Most people fancy themselves here. Most people like to think they're good, not great. I'm doing a good job. I'm okay. I get it. Truth of the matter is, most people are here. Most of the people who think they're here are living equal amongst many peers. If that weren't true, we wouldn't have such high failure rates and we wouldn't have so many people struggling to make money. So the way this bucket breaks out is this is about a 70% clip to the left. So 7 out of 10 are on the left, 3 out of 10 are on the right. And then you have the remaining damn near 20% here and less than 1% living here. The idea is we want to move up that dial, and what I'm showing you today is things that will help you do that, connecting your brand, your employees, and your marketing. Watch this. See these arrows coming in? That's me being cool. That's me being creative. So, Inception level benefits. What's the big deal? I know you know this, but I'm going to come back to it because I really want to dial all this stuff in for you. Pricing power. When you're in that level 4, level 5 Inception level benefits, you have pricing power. You can start to dictate terms because people will pay for great things. They're willing to pay. I'll give you an example that I like to use. If you're on the left side of that list, 1 through 3, and let's say we own a pizza shop. We all own a pizza shop, and we're on a busy street like that one out there in West Berlin. And another pizza shop opens straight across the street. If I'm 1 through 3, needing help, I see the other pizza shop open, and I think to myself, what? Damn it. Why are they opening up across the street? Can't they see that we're here? We don't need to compete with another pizza shop. This is bullshit. Something like that. But if I'm in that 4, 5, 6 level and the pizza shop opens across the street, I look across that street and I go, I feel bad for those guys. That's a shame. It's going to be hard to watch them go under. Let's go over and have a pizza and a beer and see if we can support them for a little while, right? That's what Inception looks like. Look, there's a big difference. It's funny, but it's true. You guys know it. I get it. But pricing power matters. Brand loyalty is a huge, big deal. We have places that, I'm sure you guys had this, COVID, heaven forbid, hate to even mention it. We had clients who did more sales closed, technically, during COVID than they did prior to COVID. They had a 20% bump during COVID doing takeaway, takeout cocktails because the entire community rallied to the cause. The entire community did not want that bar to go away. They made it known and people showed up. I kid you not, there were lines around the door, or lines around the building to get takeaway cocktails. Their profits soared, their revenue soared when they opened back up, bigger and better than ever. Astonishing, brand loyalty. But you have to build that brand is where we started. Build your brand. What do you stand for? Competition proof, that's the example I gave about the pizza place across the street. And then recession resistant, and this is a big deal too. We're in weird economic times coming out of COVID. Money's more expensive, everything's more expensive, the cost of everything is going up, and I don't see quite an end in sight, although I root for one. But when you are at that Inception level, you become a little recession proof. If I'm going to make decisions on how often I'm going to go out each week, and let's say I go out 3 times a week, right? And now my wallet's been affected, I have less disposable income, so now I'm only going to go out twice a week. I'm not cutting the bars on the left side. Or I'm not cutting the bars on the right side, I'm cutting the bars on the left side. I'm still going to go to the places that I know I can count on the most, the ones where I'm going to get the most value. Value defined as, do they meet my expectations? I'll pay the nickel. So I'm not going to expect a cheaper tab from the place I go to all the time. I'm just going to cut somebody out. Who gets cut out? Is it you? So that's why we work on the Inception level benefits and building that brand and getting all that archetyping right. So this is a simple, we're not going to go through this. This is another tool that I will make available to you if you want it. I'm going to put my email up so you can email me any questions you have about this stuff. I will be available to you. I will send you all my spreadsheets. I will even help coach you. I charge for none of this stuff. I want to help the industry. I really appreciate it. You can say nice things about our books if you like. But if you want any of our content, all of it's basically free. You don't even have to go to a website. You just email me. We're pretty simple like that. We're not big business. I left that. All right. Here's the big close, gang. So what does your brand stand for? That's the first thing I want you to walk away with today, is leave here and give that some real thought. What do we believe in? What do I stand for? Either individually, what do I stand for? What does my bar stand for? Advertise to outcomes. For God's sake, stop sending pictures of cocktails. I get it, it's cool. Some of that's okay, but speak to me as your guest. Connect with me in a meaningful way so I make a decision on Monday where I'm going on Friday and everyone else is out of the game. Do the archetype exercise with your teams. The archetype exercise is a wonderful example to do, whether if you feel like you're an individual out there building a brand, do this. Build 5 archetypes. Speak to those folks online in a way that makes sense. There's folks at this conference that each and every one of you probably know that do this exceptionally well, so the examples are out there. Include your team in your strategy. Everyone should be along for this ride. No one should be guessing about what we stand for and what we believe in. And then your brand will drive your culture. We have a whole nother culture talk that dovetails onto the end of this, but ultimately you culture build off this too. So people get confused about culture building and what culture means. I believe that the culture is the cornerstone of any business, but you can't build a culture if you don't know who you are and what you believe in, which is why we start with this. So with that in mind, my friends, thank you for your time and attention. Thank you, Angus and the BCB team, for inviting me and trusting me on your stage. Hopefully I did an adequate job. That's it.
Dave, fantastic talk, as always. Been bringing a different perspective to an industry that we talked about before, being obsessed about the product. I think the pictures from Instagram show that let's just not focus on that all of the time. But any questions for Dave about what he talked about today? Or what perhaps he didn't talk about?
I moved quick.
I'll throw in one, because I know you've got a train to catch and things like that.
Go on with it.
Screw you.
I've got great accents.
But when I started doing work with biometrics, for example, they talk a lot about designing the guest experience. That if you go out and have a fantastic time, that it didn't happen randomly. It didn't happen by accident. It was a great operator stood there and worked out what you as a guest wanted as you went through the experience, from standing outside looking at the menu to going through the door to, even going to the bathroom. How many times we've been to a venue where you walk into the bathroom and you think, what the fuck happened here? Did you run out of budget by the time you got here? Or you just don't care about it? And as I say, things like that. So that's the idea of the touch point exercise. You sit and you collaborate and say, what do we think the guest wants? What do you want? How will we deliver it? What gets in the way of that happening? Is that something that you would run alongside something like this? This is really about identifying the guest and their need, as opposed to necessarily what happens in the actual building of the reputation.
That's exactly right. However, when we do those touch point exercises, which I agree with, that's process stuff. And you need to have good processes. You want to be productive. You want to be logistically correct in your venues, to use corporate terminology. However, what I fear is that people lean too much on that. And I've done that work, so that work is henceforth done, and then we don't get into who we are, what do we stand for. We have massive anyone here have a turnover problem in their business? People coming and going a lot, or people stay forever? Look, we have massive turnover issues in the States, mostly because people aren't engaged in the business. I would rather have a team fully engaged in everything we do, a team of true believers that are going to execute on the business proposition and understand my value prop to my customers, than have a bunch of people that really understand to take the guest to a table and hand them a menu and say thank you, as a kind of a gross exaggeration. So do I want both? Yes. But I don't think we fall down as much on the process stuff. I think we really fall down on this. Like I don't hardly see this existing. When we spoke to the world-class operators, right, there are 30 of them from around the world, bartenders, bar owners, and brand ambassadors, really cool stuff. I wish we could have gotten to more. We just ran out of ink. These were the types of things they talked about. No one ever talked about process. They did talk about training, right? So they talked about training, but not in a process-focused way, but in a people-focused way. That's the difference. So when you're training folks, I'll extend on that a little bit too. When you're training folks with an eye towards promotion, an eye towards progression, what more can you do in our business? Do these things well, and you can move forward either in your career or in my business. I love that training. If the training is simply to get a host to get menus to the table for a person and without any of the other stuff, I hate that training, because that person's just going to leave in 30 days. It's an uninspired gig. So why would they stick around? So give them inspiration. Give people a reason to stay, and they'll stay. People don't leave jobs for $1 an hour or $1 a euro. They leave jobs because they're uninspired, or people quit bosses, not jobs. Most typically speaking. That's a very long answer.
First of all, thank you for that nice talk. Quick question. So you started off saying that we're too product focused, basically, like with the mosaic of Instagram screenshots. But obviously, this is a talk that is all the more relevant for business owners. Us as bartenders, we do like the creative side of things, and it's kind of like something that makes it easier to put up with like exhausting hours and stuff. So how would you suggest a bar owner what kind of incentives should there be between the bar owner and the employees to kind of like make those two things cooperate? Like you can still make amazing things. Mm-hmm. It's just that you need to make sure that they're well targeted, because that's what I always think as well. Like the bartenders don't necessarily understand what it takes to make money and the importance of making money. Sounds a bit basic, but yeah.
All right, so I'll give two answers to that question. One's a careful one and one's a more aggressive one. The careful one is find balance. And I think you talked about that earlier. Find the balance between creativity and connection. My focus is, I believe we're in hospitality, which means hospitality is outwards focused. We're focused on the well-being of others by our nature in this industry. So I'll run into people who say, I love to cook barbecue, and so I opened up a barbecue restaurant to serve barbecue to others. That's a singularly bad reason to open up a barbecue restaurant. Rather, what I'd like to hear from that person is, I love to serve others, and the way I do that is through barbecue. Right? So serving others has to come first. So I almost don't even like the juxtaposition of the argument between the two, because they don't contemplate the person that matters most, which is the guest. Everything we do should be guest-facing. So if I want to show my guests that we're making badass cocktails here, I'm down with that. How do we do that? It's in connection with the place that I work and the brand that the owners have built. We need to do that in concert with one another, and then it needs to be outcome-focused. Show me people loving my cocktails. I can't just take your word for it, and I can't see anyone enjoying this. I just see a great picture, which is cool. I don't mind some of that. But what I want is to be focused on the people that come to enjoy the venue, and we deliver hospitality, which is people-driven by its definition. Okay.
Folks, any more questions? I'll throw one in there. You talked about the archetype being the ideal guest. Now, we know a lot of bar owners are completely delusional, and you do this exercise with them. I mean, how often do they think their ideal customer is someone that realistically you, or definitely the staff, will say, yeah, that's not who's coming in, and that's not. And the second part of that is how much of it is based on people that already come in that are good for the business, that do spend money, that the servers, the bartenders are aware of, etc. So where does that sort of balance between ideal and typical lie?
I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew the stats on it. Feels like 50-50 proposition. Feels like the more you understand this, the closer you are to having the ideal guest. I'll give you an example of someone we were coaching recently, has a place just outside of Disney. And he was like, hey, look, we were in the workshop together. He's like, hey, look, people come in and it's Disney, 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 but I'm authentic Orlando. Like, how do I communicate authentic Orlando to people? So I think this is me nerding out. I think this is fascinating because by definition, he's going to get all sorts of different guests come through that door, right? Because people are coming, they're travelers coming to see Disneyland, so they're coming from everywhere. So what we landed on, the advertising should be interested to see authentic Orlando. He's in like an artsy district. So let's talk to people. We put an advertisement outside the venue that basically says, hey, the artificial kind of Disney stuff is okay for a while. Are you on overload with Mickey Mouse? Come in here and get a taste of authentic Disney. So he's speaking directly to the people that are in that area at that time. And look, if that's probably the likes of us in this room, we walk by that and go, we're going right in that place. So the archetype is very interesting. In that case, it's very broad. It could be anyone from anywhere around the world, but they're sharing a similar experience, Disney. And now these are folks that are looking to get the hell away from that for a little while. And there's your common thread on an archetype. So it's not so easy to put a number to it. If you have a college bar, your archetype is pouring in all the time. I've got one archetype, college student, and I'm going to cater to college students. But it goes back to why the branding and marketing is so important. Connect with the right people. So I don't know that I've answered that perfectly well. It's a little scattershot, and our data is a little sketchy too. Like, this is hot off the press, folks. Like, we just did the book in July. And we've been doing these tours and doing a lot of talks about this, and folks who show up like you hopefully have a running start on the field.
Fantastic. Folks, any more questions? Yes.
It's actually something I want to say to the gentleman who just asked the question. The difference I see in our industry is between the nightclub kind of bar scene and the cocktail bar scene. Because if you look at that, the cocktail bar scene is usually posting the pics with just a drink and on their own, amazing recipes, amazing garnished, everything. But if you look at the nightclub industry, they always have photographers there at all the events taking pictures of the people. And when you look at those pictures, you identify with that. You see them and you think, damn, they're having a great time. I want to be that guy. Instead, it doesn't even matter what the product of the nightclub is. It doesn't matter what drinks they have. It's the overall experience that's important.
That's a wonderful example. In the archetype building exercise that I showed, there's a financial or an economic decision-making element to it. And we use nightclubs all the time because that's group decision-making. So you have to appeal to the group element. Lots of people are going to be making a decision on where we go, so we have to market to that. Whereas if I'm a single lady, my Holly, going out, I only need to market to Holly, and those are two different messages. So you want to know the content. You're right. Nightclubs do that very well. It's a good call out.
All right. Dave, thank you so much for sharing your time, your expertise.
Thank you for having me.
Would say to everybody, buy the book, because there's just one great idea and a book filled with great ideas.
And there's my email. So if anybody needs me or if you want any of this stuff, don't hesitate. I'm not that busy. Send me a note and I'll send you anything you want. If you want to have a conversation about it, I'll do that with you too. I don't charge for any of this stuff because I'm a sucker. See y'all.
Dave, thank you very much.